Adding humor to your presentation is a great way to make your message stand out and to make your audience connect with you. But what if you're not that funny? Or what if you fear that adding humor can diminish your credibility, especially in a technical or academic setting? Well, I got you covered, because by the end of this video, you're gonna learn 6 organic ways to add humor to your presentations on a scale from subtle and mellow techniques to advanced techniques, including one that is my absolute favorite. And yes, you can use this in any professional setting. Hello and welcome to Word Cortex. I'm Anita and it's so good to see you here. In adding humor to our presentations, we're not going to force humor. We're not telling a joke. We're not roasting anybody. Let's leave that to the stand-up comedians. What we're doing is using authentic and organic ways to add elements of humor to make our audience smile and feel connected with us, and maybe remember our message for a little longer. So in these 6 tips that I'm going to share with you, I want you to pick the ones that seem most authentic and natural to you. Let's start with an easy one. My hunch is that almost all of us can add this to our presentations, and it's going to make your audience smile even before you've said your first word. And that is to modify the last line of your introduction bio. When you deliver a presentation, someone needs to introduce you, and they might say something like, "Let's welcome our next speaker," and then read a prim and proper, serious sounding LinkedIn style bio. What you can do is add one sentence at the very end of this bio that reveals a little known fact about you or a quirky fact about you. For example, at one science conference, one professor added this to her introduction bio: "Dr. Jones is the mother of 3 and wife of only 1. It made all of us smile. Another example is that of an author, and he said at the very end of his bio, "As a published author, he always prefers the book to the movie." Here's what I add to my introduction bio. When Anita is not speaking or writing, she's spending significant time doing research on storytelling by binge watching Netflix. By adding a little known quirky fact about yourself, you've made yourself a little more relatable to your audience. And of course, they're smiling even before you've started your presentation. An optional tip is for you to refer back to this fact at some point during your talk. I, for example, make multiple references to Netflix during my talk. I call myself a victim to the next episode button when I'm explaining the power of good storytelling. This technique is a callback. By referring back to a previous funny moment, your audience will smile again. And the more they smile, the more you connect with them. I'm curious, let me know what you're gonna add in your introduction bio by leaving a comment below. Let's move on to the next level on the humor scale, and that is to share your reaction to success or failure, but in a slightly dramatized or exaggerated manner. Often in your presentation, you are communicating a success story or celebrating a win. And in these moments, you could share your reaction to that success in a slightly exaggerated fashion. For example, you might say something like, "We're so happy with these results." But to add a humor element, you can change this to, "We're so happy with these results. Honestly, the only thing that can make us happier is if we met Beyonce." And that exaggeration is what adds the humor in the moment. If your presentation documents a challenge or a troubleshooting protocol, in this instance, you can share your reaction to challenges. For example, you could say, "This was such a challenging project. Honestly, after 3 months of not getting any results, my best friend was a tub of ice cream at night. I almost felt like Bridget Jones." Another example would be, "What kept us going through this challenging project was our talented team and lots of free coffee." These are just examples of exaggeration of your reactions, and you can make this your own based on how you react to success and failure. Just as you've shared your reaction, another humor technique, and moving up on that humor scale, is for us to capture your audience's thoughts in the moment. Based on what you're presenting, your audience can feel a variety of emotions during your presentation. For example, if you're presenting highly cerebral or complex information, they can feel overwhelmed. If you're implementing a change, they can feel hesitant. So in these instances, you can use a tactic that stand-up comedians use, and they use a phrase called, "I know exactly what you're thinking." There's two ways to use "I know exactly what you're thinking" in your presentations. Let's assume that your presentation might make your audience feel slightly overwhelmed with information. In this instance, you could say, "I know what you're thinking," and then say the exact opposite emotion. "I know what you're thinking. All of this seems super easy and straightforward, right?" And it's this contrast between what they're feeling and what you're saying that's going to add the humor element in the moment. You can, of course, continue by saying, "I know this is a little overwhelming. That's why we have systems in place for," and then continue with your presentation. The second way of using this phrase, of course, is, "I know what you're thinking," and then state the exact emotion. "I know what you're thinking. This all seems really overwhelming, right?" But you'll notice that just saying that is not funny enough. So what we're going to do is add a visual element to this phrase, and we'll do that by adding a GIF. GIFs are my absolute favorite way to add humor to any presentation. I use them all the time. I've used them in the beginning of my talk. I've used them to end my talks. I've used them to break into practice sessions. GIFs definitely move us up on that humor scale, and they help us capture exactly how your audience is feeling in that moment. If you go to giphy.com, which is what I use to find my GIFs, you could type in the exact emotion you're looking for. Frustrated, overwhelmed, tired, confused. You can even use the words that we would use in that moment. For example, "What? Are you kidding me? I'm tired," etc. You can even use GIFs to share your reaction to success or failure. Remember that Bridget Jones example we used? If you go to giphy.com and type in Bridget Jones, you might find a GIF that you can use on your slides as you communicate. Taking us back to our first tip of adding a quirky little known fact about yourself in the introduction, if you are an animal lover, a dog person or a cat person, and you add that to your introduction bio, you can most certainly use endless GIFs of cats and dogs to represent your emotion or your audience's reaction in your slides. Can you see that I really like GIFs? I might be biased, but I encourage that you try using GIFs at least once in your presentations if you think it's a good fit for your personality and your message. Now, moving on up the humor scale, what's even better than a GIF? It's a meme. About 7 years ago, I was sitting at a lunch seminar waiting for a scientific talk to begin. Now, these talks can be quite dry and sometimes even boring, but in this instance, the speaker began her talk with a Ryan Gosling meme, and it said, "Hey girl, are you corpus callosum? Because you've crossed my mind." It's been so many years, and I still remember it. And I will never forget what the corpus callosum does. It connects the two hemispheres. That is the power of adding humor to your technical talks. It makes you and your message memorable for years to come. If you look online, there are industry-specific memes for almost all fields. There's PhD memes, neuroscience memes, biology memes, engineer memes, legal memes, medical memes. If you don't find what you're looking for, you can of course customize memes by using what's trending. The beauty about a meme is that it's bringing humor element to your particular topic, to your niche. And that makes it highly effective because it's like an inside story that only you and your audience understand. For those of us who are up for a bit of a challenge, we are moving even further on the humor scale and adding humor elements at different points in the presentation to make your audience smile not once but multiple times during your talk. And that is to modify the title of your presentation and add a theme. Presentation titles can often be serious and buttoned up, so by drawing inspiration from movies or books, you can add some personality to your presentation titles, and that sets a theme for your talk. For example, instead of Microscopy 101, you could say Microscopy, the good, the bad, the ugly. Instead of sales training, you could say How to win a client in 10 days. For time management training, you could say How to manage your time without losing your mind. By modifying your presentation titles, you've signaled to your audience what type of person you are. You're telling them that they can expect education as well as some entertainment during your talk. And these titles also lend themselves really well into adding humor at different points during your presentation. For example, you could add GIFs, memes, personal stories, and all kinds of anecdotes to illustrate the good, the bad, and the ugly. By tweaking your presentation title and setting a theme for your talk, your audience is going to know that something good is coming at every turn of your presentation, and they're going to stay engaged throughout your presentation. My favorite comedian is Trevor Noah, and he says, if you laugh with somebody, then you know you share something. And I want you to share something with your audience the next time you deliver a presentation. As always, if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one.